Well-known but infamous Congresswoman Jackie Abramowitz tells all about her fraud conviction, her involvement with former senators and now lobbyists Joseph and Larry Crook. The Crooks got off because of the country's lax lobbying laws, but Abramowitz, she went straight to the big house.
Yes?
Do you have a minute?
Of course. Come right in.
Well, here's that new legislation you're asking for.
Oh, looks great. Thank you so much for that.
And those Laker tickets you wanted?
Courtside?
All season long.
Thanks.
Oh, and by the way, good luck with your election next week.
Oh, thank you, and thank you so much for all the campaign help. I mean, you guys know how it worked back in the Senate days.
Yeah, we do.
So, the legislation you're pushing, the polls show that my constituents don't agree with it. The majority aren't for it.
Well, we don't pay you to worry about the majority of your constituents.
Is that a one?
Oh, wrong pocket.
Oh, thanks. I'll take that.
Well, you know how easy it is for us rich people to win elections these days. What a threat to our democracy!
Just shocking. As you can see from this clip, Abramowitz is really the face of corruption in D.C. And now we speak firsthand to the woman behind it all. Senator Mrs. Abramowitz.
Thank you so much for having me.
Where do we start?
Well, I mean, those were crazy days when I was a senator. A lot of my career centered around, the Crooks and all they did for me and all they provided me in terms of campaign contributions and gifts.
Like what specifically?
There was a lot of, actually I had courtside seats to the Lakers for years on end. Every game. My husband was very happy with that one. They provided everything. They would, if I needed a nanny, they would find one, just magically. And I already knew them because they were my fellow senators when we worked in Washington together. Then they became, lobbyists, and we just kind of kept our friendship going and made it kind of evolve into a more professional relationship. And they provided me trips to Hawaii. It was.
The family?
Yeah, the kids, everyone came, yeah.
Everyone paid for it?
Yeah, they paid for the flight, they paid for the hotel, they paid for food, they paid for everything, really.
How did you get yourself into so much trouble?
Well, I'm not the only person in, Washington doing that at all. There are just so many senators who, and representatives who engage in this kind of corruption, really. It's very hard to resist. Your entire job is pretty much done for you. They write your legislation, and obviously there's a downside to that in terms of, they don't really know exactly what your constituents want, and they don't care, frankly, and, but the campaign money is such a large amount that it's very hard to turn down, and, you just kind of get used to this whole cycle of corruption, and it just becomes your life, really.
Is there any hope for the system?
I have been, reflecting in prison for the past, several years, and I've come to realize that there are definitely some holes in the system that could be, very easily fixed, so to speak. Honestly, if you restricted the right of lobbyists to write legislation, that would be the number one thing on my list if I was, someone who wanted to fix that, because that really, really lends to a whole system of corruption that begins really at the writing of legislation, and I think also the whole system of the revolving door where, as the Crooks, they were my fellow senators, and then they became lobbyists just like that, and there is a Hatch Act that prohibits congressmen from becoming bureaucrats, and I think that there should be the same thing for congressmen becoming lobbyists, because that really just fuels the system. It doesn't aid anything.
Would those be viable solutions, however? Because do you think Congress would restrict their main campaign contributors and their access to the lobbying arena?
Really the main thing that needs to happen is that this issue needs to be brought to the eyes of the public, because they're the ones who can really fix the situation in terms of bringing this to the media, things like this, interviews like this, this is really important because once the media gets it into the court of public opinion, that really becomes the central way to fix it, because then congressmen, they essentially answer to their constituents. And if the constituents know about this, and this is very easily, pretty much any congressman I talk to will admit to this.
Yeah.
And, that is the way to fix it, is to get it into the public's eyes and get them to basically say to their congressman, unless you enact this legislation, I will not vote for you. That is the only way to get this passed. And that is a very, very viable solution.
For the rest of the interview, log on to CNN.com and see what Jackie Abramowitz has to say about our current political situation.